Hey everyone, it's Dad here from Coaster Fam. Today I'm going to tell you about our recent trip to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Busch Gardens, Williamsburg opened in 1975. It's consistently voted the most beautiful park or one of the most beautiful parks. It's themed to several different European countries. Each section of the park is themed to a different country, including England, Ireland, Italy, France, Scotland. They have a great coaster collection. They have recently added Pantheon, which is their Intamin multi-launch coaster. We got several rides on that, 4 rides on that. Griffin, a dive coaster. They have Apollo's Chariot, the original B&M Hyper. They have Tempesto, a Skyrocket 2. Nessie, Loch Ness Monster, that is an old Arrow looper. Iconic interlocking loops. But we started off the day at Pantheon. Rushed right back through the park all the way to Pantheon. Found that it was up and going when we got there. Waited for about 5 minutes for our first ride, which was a front row ride. Pantheon has quickly jumped in my rankings after the 4 rides we got. It is now my number 2 coaster behind Velocicoaster. It's themed to 5 different Roman gods, so every element on the ride represents a different Roman god. It's an awesome stall. Great top hat, the backward spike, maybe my favorite element. It's very Mr. Freeze-like. The stall is really good, though. It might be the stall. It's probably the best stall I've been on so far. The launches forward and backward, amazing. Definitely a must ride. I really wasn't expecting it to blow me away as good as it did. There's the switch track there.
Reaction from our first time on Pantheon. Awesome. As good as Velocicoaster? I don't know. The stall definitely was better, I think, because you move through the stall slower, so it feels like you're just hanging there forever. But overall, awesome ride start to finish. Like violent ejector on the launch hill, like a little launch hill. Great ride. Beautiful views from the top of Hat. Amazing. You like it?
Yeah.
Yep. Probably top 10, maybe top 5.
So you come right out of the station, take a turn, immediately hit a launch and hit that element there where there's so much hang time right there. That's the outer bank there, which I thought was going to be a better element when I first saw the layout of this thing, but actually it's probably the least impressive part of the coaster. There's still some lateral airtime there, but not as good of a pop as I thought.
The action from Pantheon in the back row, way better. Way better ride on the spike. A very, very Mr. Freeze vibe on that spike. Violent ejector over the speed hill during the launch, the backward launch in particular. It's like, man, that's RMC level ejector right there. What do you think? Better front row or back row ride?
Back row.
Yeah, back row. I'd say the stall is kind of the same maybe in both. Getting yanked over the top hat is better in the back row, and the spike is better in the back row. Overall, every element on that thing pops way better than I thought it would be. Probably top 5.
We rode our first Skyrocket 2 at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Tempesto, which with these, I didn't really ever have really an anticipation for these. They looked cool, but, and I wanted to get on one, but I never really thought it was going to, blow me away. But this one absolutely blew me away. I would definitely love one of these at Six Flags over Georgia.
From our first Skyrocket 2, rode Tempesto. Awesome. Those things are underrated. That thing was amazing. Awesome hang time. Awesome airtime pop into the top there. Launches are forceful. I love that. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Very awesome.
So we got a few rides on the original B&M Hyper, Apollo's Chariot. I would say it's the weakest of the Hypers I've been on so far, but it was still a really awesome ride. The layout is out and back, all through the woods, across the river a few times. It's still really fun. Some unique elements being the original one. It's definitely a great ride. I'd say it's probably 3rd or 4th best in the park. There's Griffin, the dive coaster. We had not been on a dive coaster either until this park, so I was looking forward to that. It actually really blew me away. I didn't expect dive coasters to be much after the dive the way people talk about them, but I would say Griffin's probably 2nd or 3rd best ride in the park. It's a good splashdown. All of the airtime is all over the place on those. But another thing about this park really is the there's a lot of animals. There is wolves, Clydesdales, sheep, there's owls, birds everywhere. Like, you'll be walking and kind of forget that you're in a park with a bunch of roller coasters just because you're in these very well themed areas themed to these countries, but then there's a ton of animals that you don't get to see very regularly anywhere else. Overall, I would say this is probably the prettiest park, the most like serene and beautiful park I've been to for sure. Some cons about the park: we had all day dining, and I would say there were probably two places open. We went on a Thursday, two places open that took the dining, and you kind of have limited selection on what you can get, and it's kind of few and far between on places to get food. So people kind of pack into those places and make the lines long. They're also mildly inconsistent with like height checks. Like, you'll, check your kid's height at the front of the park and they're fine. They're moving the thing with their head. And then you check at the beginning of the ride and they're fine. They're perfectly tall enough to ride it. And then you wait in a line forever. And then you get pulled out of line to check and they say that, your kid can't ride. So you wasted time. That was a little upsetting. Kind of unacceptable to not have like a guy at the beginning of the line checking to make sure, or that the height sticks are even consistent in the ride. Like, we had a problem at Verbolten with that, which we went back the next day, rode Verbolten. That was an awesome ride too. Really like the dark ride portion. I'm not a big fan of rides in pitch black because I don't like not being able to see where I'm going, but it was still a really fun ride. Overall, though, the park is still probably the best park we've been to, I'd say. From an op standpoint, incredible ops, like just pushing trains through. Very good ops. But I would say the best place we ate in the park was probably Das Festhaus, which is kind of the big auditorium-style cafeteria where you get in line, you get your food, you go sit down, and they have shows on a stage in the middle. The biggest disappointment from a ride standpoint here, I would say, is Invader. It's kind of a family-style GCI, which I love GCI. Mystic Timbers is in my top 10. For a while, it was in my top 2. I don't know. Invader it's kind of beats you up. You kind of have to ride it defensively, and that's not what I was expecting for a smaller GCI. It does look awesome, though, but still, a little too rough.
Ride reaction from Invader, our first time on the family GCI. To be only 5 years old, that thing has a little bit of a square wheel problem, somewhat. Still fun, but I think that's a front row ride and done, right? Yeah. Maybe one, it's a little, yeah, but still good.
So Alpengeist, their B&M invert, I think it might be the tallest B&M invert, if I'm not mistaken. It's really good. It's themed to like a haunted ski lift, I guess is what you would say. A lot of varied elements, long layout through the woods. All the elements popped. They're all very unique. Inverts to me, they're kind of like, they're not meh, but they're fun. But it's just, there's always so much you can do under the track. But this one was good. It's definitely, you feel that height on that first drop, that's for sure. Really like the setting of it. This whole section of the park here that crosses back and forth through the woods and the river right here. There's like 3 coasters just intertwining all over the place. You get to some points here where you're crossing bridges and you're just seeing so much coaster track everywhere. It's really, really awesome to see. But Alpengeist was good. It's probably my second favorite invert behind Afterburner.
Dad joke board and Alpengeist. Classic.
So there is a ton of stuff at this park for smaller kids. There's an entire Sesame Street play area that has a water play area in it, a coaster, which got that credit too, Grover's Alpine Express. But there's a ton of stuff. There's at least 1 or 2 kid kind of flat rides in every area of this park, at least, if not more. There's some areas that have just multiple flat rides, some of that you can't really find anywhere else anymore, some kind of older flat rides, and some newer stuff, swings and Finnegan's Flyer. They have Carousel, obviously. There's a ton of rides. I don't do a lot of flat rides because most of them spin, and I can't take a whole lot of spinning in my old age anymore. But yeah, definitely a great park for little kids to take your smaller children. There's a ton for everybody to do in every area of the park, I would say. Although most of the rides are under 52 inches height requirement, even the bigger coasters, most of them are under 52. There's only a few things that are over 52, and most of the stuff is 48 or under. So there's a ton for smaller kids to do here, for sure. I would say price point is a little bit high here. It's probably 400 something bucks total for us for a day to get here, with the dining on 2 of those tickets. And some of the merch is a little pricier. Some you'll see, like nano coasters are 10 or 20 bucks more here than they are at like somewhere like Great Adventure. Sesame Street stuffed animal like an Elmo is like 60 bucks or something, right? Very overpriced, but it's kind of to be expected at like a premium park like this. Like you're getting a great experience for the ticket price, I would say. But some of the stuff is a little overpriced, so I definitely say prepare for that if you're going to take a trip to this park. Is prepare to have some extra money if you're trying to buy merch or anything like that, because you're going to definitely need some more than you think you would. This area here, the Land of the Dragons, is very cool. It's like a tree house and rope bridges and nets to play around in, a water play area to play around in with your kids. It's a very, very cool area of the park. All right, now for some scores. So for Pantheon, I will give that a 10 out of 10. That is one of the best coasters I've ever been on. Griffin, a 9 out of 10. Loved that dive coaster. That was very cool. Alpengeist, B&M invert, 8 out of 10. It's a really, really good invert. Very strong. Apollo's Chariot, 7 out of 10. The weakest of the hyper so far, but still a very fun ride. Tempesto, the Skyrocket 2, 7 out of 10. Blew me away. Better than I thought it would be. Loch Ness, Nessie, I give it a 5 out of 10. She gets the classic, old Arrow. It's a classic kind of landmark coaster with the interlocking loops. She gets a 5 out of 10. Not the roughest Arrow I've been on. Still a fun ride. Just, it's an Arrow. Invader, 4 out of 10. Biggest disappointment of Busch Gardens Williamsburg was Invader, I would say. Verbolten, 8 out of 10. Really, really awesome ride. Launches, the dark ride portion. Pretty good ride overall. 8 out of 10 on Verbolten. Overall, I'd give their coaster collection a 9 out of 10. They don't have they don't have 14 or 15 coasters like these other parks, but they do have a really strong, like, top to bottom collection. Ride ops, 10 out of 10. They're just pushing trains through. Some of the best stops I've ever seen at any park. Food selection, I would say they have a lot of variance in the different styles of food that you can get in each portion of the park, for each country portion of the park. But overall, wasn't that impressed with the food itself or the selection overall, I guess. Overall, I'd say the park as a whole, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It's one of the best parks I've been to. It's not a 10 out of 10 just because of the few issues we had with the food on the dining plan and the height check thing, but still an awesome park. I highly recommend a trip to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This was just one of the parks we went to on our coaster trip up north. We went to Great Adventure and Six Flags America. I'll have videos coming up soon from some of that stuff, and as well as Air Force One updates. Obviously, I'll get right back on those. I know there's been a lot of progress this past week or so. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.